All right, so welcome. And let me just give you a little bit of a bio so that you have an understanding of where I'm coming from in relation to this work. Because let me start out too with just my age, because I think that's important as I'm appreciating the transition we're in time to think, wow, the changes that we're seeing occurring now actually started in the 60s with the hippies who were saying, okay, this system doesn't work. We need a change. And the Age of Aquarius came out. And here we are 60 years later, and globally, the world has shut down. Globally, the world is in lockdown. And I just saw something just now on Facebook in Melbourne, Australia. They're in what they call stage 4 lockdown. And they have curfew is that they can only go 5 miles out of the radius of their home. Their curfew, only one person from a family can go to the grocery store daily. They have to be in between 8 and 5 is total lock. You can't, that's a curfew, 8 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Wow.
Yes, I know. Somebody wrote, is this true? And all these people from Melbourne were saying, yes, it's true. It's true. It's true. So we're really in some really interesting times, and I think it's going to affect people a lot mentally. So the whole aspect of this about how to reinvent yourself so that you can be free and authentic is extremely important. And for myself, the reason why I started on this, being from that time where we were starting to question, well, what is life? What is authority? What is, there was a whole questioning with the Vietnam War and everything else. People began to question for the first time in a long time. And my questioning led me to what I later realized was an emotional, a physical disability, which I later tagged to emotions. And from that experience of somehow emotionally curing myself without even knowing what I was doing, I became really invested in trying to understand how life works. And so coming from a medical background, studying to be a registered nurse, coming from a medical background and not having answers for me, I started looking in the spiritual realm and the psychological realm and the power of the mind and all sorts of different things just to try to find an answer. And I meant to do the math before I started, and I didn't, to just try to think back to, let's see, if I started that in like about 78, and then in 93 is when I said, okay, I can't take this anymore. Because in 93, what happened was I realized there has to be a better way. Because one of the most frustrating things to me was the realization, or just looking at things, just trying to understand, well, how does this work? What does love mean? I'd meet people who say, I could just heal with love. And then there were people who could heal with prayer. And there were all these things that people could do. And I'm like, okay, how do you do that? And I've tried to understand. And one guy, I remember way back then, I was like, well, I'm not sure if I understand what love is. And he says, well, if you don't understand love, you'll never heal anyone. And I'm like, oh, I just felt crushed, and and it was, to me, I'm going, why is this so subjective? And so at the time, I had delved into just playing around with numerology and found that I could ascertain people's personalities through their name and date of birth. And I was like, this is crazy. How is this even possible? I'm a scientific person. I shouldn't be able to know about this person. So after having great success with that for several years, because I used it in my counseling to save time and to really help people get great results, I started saying, now, what about the words we say? I wonder if there's something there where I can get a better understanding of what does God mean? What does love mean? What does prayer mean? What do these things mean? And so back in 93, I don't even remember now if it was 93, 92, that I started this research of just changing words into numbers. And I was fortunate that, immediately I saw there was some validity there. So I was luckily found someone that could, in my price range, write a database for me. And so through this, I've been using this since '93 to the current date as my hobby. It's been my research hobby to just understand what do these things mean. And for me, it's been fantastic because I'm scientific at heart, even though people might think my method is not scientific, but at heart, I'm scientific. I like to see patterns. Looking at nature, looking at life, anything I've done, there's patterns. And that's largely what science is looking at patterns. Science is looking at the past. And so something as important as words, because in so many traditions, the Bible, it's the word. We know the word is so important. The word is how we create. So, doing this and having that appreciation for words back in about 2 years ago, lo and behold, what popped out in front of me was a clear understanding of the creative process, how things are created. And something that is very common in one would call spiritual groups or spiritual understanding. And a lot of it started from the early 1910s. It was called a New Thought movement back then, where people realized the power of thinking, the power of your mind, the power of words and affirmations, and all of that started back in the 1910s. And so it resurfaced again, and it's wonderful because yes, we started to learn and understand how we create what we want by our focus, by our thinking. But the problem with that is, once again, it became subjective because like anything in life, there are going to be people that's their gift. They do it naturally. And of course, they're the ones that people want to learn from, but it's so hard to learn from them because they do it so naturally. They don't even really know what they're doing. They'll go, well, you just do this, right? So that is the gift of what I have been discovered that I feel is so, so important right now. And so during the first lockdown, Mind Your Ideas was born. And the reason being is I said, okay, how can I change this knowledge in a way that people can use to be able to more consistently create what they want, understand who they are and understand our relationship with life. I think that's our biggest challenge, is the relationship we have with life and really understanding what that is. So Mind Your Ideas, the main emphasis of Mind Your Ideas and the framework of Mind Your Ideas is to learn to, for one, know who you are and how you interact with life. And so therefore, from doing that, what we're going to go over tonight, well, what is authentic anyway? What is being free? I mean, those are concepts that we all have an inherent feeling about. We go, I want to be authentic. And, something that when even the word is said, there's a feeling about it. But what does that mean? And so back to what Mind Your Ideas is about is the biggest thing I feel that I discovered that I realized, okay, I've got to bring this information out, is an understanding of how we create beliefs and the importance of beliefs. Because we just go through life and we've all been just told, you do this, you do that, we watch TV, we do all these things and we feel this is where I'll be successful. This is the way I'll accomplish that. And even when you're in the psychological realms, you understand that you can have limiting beliefs, which is why you don't achieve what you might want to achieve. But we don't really actually stop. At least I didn't. So I'm going to assume that everybody else didn't, because I've been doing this for how many years now. And I just really didn't fully, really at the core of my being, fully appreciate how beliefs is everything. And my reality is nothing more than a set of beliefs. I don't know if anybody else has actually taken the time, conceived it in a way where you really just appreciate that is all your reality is. Because we're told that there's facts out there. This is how it works. That's a fact, right? But is it a fact or is it a belief? And why this is so, so, so extremely important right now. And this is not something I myself even has paid attention to in the past. I've heard it. I mean, I've heard it forever. I mean, the Age of Aquarius started 1960, That's what, 60 years ago. And so I would hear people say that the age of Pisces is ending and we're moving till the age of Aquarius. But I never really took that to heart or even looked at what that meant until recently as I'm watching this in front of me going, oh my gosh, things are in massive change and normal that we knew or called normal shall not return. It's not. And the biggest thing for me, if this wasn't happening globally, I wouldn't take it so seriously. But for this to be happening all across the world is just mind-boggling. And I think it's something that we have to really pay attention to and really take to heart. So the age of Pisces is the age of hierarchy, external power. It's beliefs, and it's the age of beliefs. Everything was about beliefs. It was believing in the government, believing in the church. It was all about beliefs. It was set up for beliefs. And I was speaking with a friend, and I was so grateful that she mentioned, because I hadn't thought about it, how she and her friends were feeling a bit adrift because no one has come forth to take over leadership. Usually in the past, when something would happen, somebody would rise up and say, okay, this is the way, you follow me. Even like in the whole Black Lives Matter movement, there's not really a leader. There's people complaining, but there's not really a leader. In the past, you'd have Jesse Jackson and all Al Sharpton go, okay, we're going to go this way. This is the way to do it. In the religious, you'd have Billy Graham. You'd have these characters that would rise up and say, this is where we're going. This is what to do. None of that is happening now. Politically, it's not happening. Even Trump, nobody knows even where any political leader stands. I mean, think about it. Germany, all these places that have political leaders, have you heard any of them? Not really come out. I mean, Trump is talking every day. Okay, I don't go to those press conferences, but it's not in a form of leadership. It's like, here's the reports, or correct me if I'm wrong on that, because I haven't been watching him every day. All right, so therein lies the appreciation of where we're going and what is the age of Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius is about the individual. It's about the individual from the standpoint of turning inwardly and accessing one's own wisdom and knowledge and becoming whole as an individual. And so therefore, as opposed to having all of this centralized units like we've had, it's going to decentralize, and they're going to be units of more like tribes. I mean, I even checked on that to see, someone else mentioned that, in business schools, they're talking about the advent of tribes occurring now. And I, sure enough, I Googled it and there it is, I mean, we're even thinking about the way we work, how things are going to work, and things are going to come back more to local levels and more to groups of individuals collaborating in each person because they know who they are and they're being authentic and they're being free, can share what their gift is with their tribe, with their collaborative group. So with that in mind, and it's, I just feel what we have at Mind Your Ideas is so, so helpful and important to help people get prepared, because we have not been prepared to operate from the standpoint of beliefs being our assistant, our tool, versus our leader. We are led by our beliefs and don't even know that's what we're doing. Our beliefs are not to be the leader, right? And so, okay, so just giving that, with that in mind, let's identify what authentic is, okay? First, I want to identify what is authentic, what is being free, and then, who are we? It's important if we're going to be authentic, if we're going to be free, well, who the hell are we? What is, who is that person? Well, that's what we're going to find out. It's not, but anyway, how do we relate to life? What is our access point? How do we fit in so we can be authentic? And what's interesting is authentic, as I said, is something that we all feel. And essentially what being authentic is when you have a desire and you can feel it, and you feel it to the point where you say, I'm going to express it. Once it's expressed, as it's being expressed, you feel authentic. So it's beginning with a desire and recognizing it and acknowledging it, and then expressing it. So people who allow themselves to entertain their ideas more and use their imagination and feel creative to some extent will feel more authentic than people who shut down their ideas. Okay. And so essentially that's what authentic is. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but then the whole aspect of what is free. Well, free is almost like the byproduct of being authentic. One goes through allowing themselves to have an idea, have a desire, be able to conceive it and want to express it. Once it's expressed, or even as it's being expressed, there's that feeling of freedom. You feel free. You feel, there's feeling of clarity. You feel like you're on purpose and you feel like you're aligned because you're acknowledging that which you feel, that which you started out as a mere idea or desire. Okay. So, so that is that, and therefore, so to be authentic and free, wanting to reinvent oneself as being authentic and free is essentially acknowledging your inner desires. I mean, we all come with those. We all have those little urges that say, what if, and if we allow the what if by entertaining our imagination, and we're going to go through the steps of how we create a belief, and then, and see how these what ifs becomes our belief. And if we're doing what ifs that serve us, then our beliefs deliver us into experiencing life in a feeling state of freedom, feeling free. Okay. And in the meanwhile, it's not a matter of having to change yourself, because what are you changing? You're just shifting into being who you are, being, who you want to create yourself to be at whatever particular time. It's only belief that we have to be one certain way for our life. You go to school and you do this thing, and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And, God forbid you try to reinvent yourself, or good luck if you do, I mean, it's not, more so nowadays, there's more support for that than there was once upon a time. But still, there is that feeling that we have to stick with something beyond its point of authenticity. And and we're sticking to things and we know it's no longer authentic, but yet we feel we have to stick to it. Okay. So, how do you reinvent yourself? Okay. First, we have to know who we are. And this is a big problem, and why it's so hard for people to change, because when you think you are your belief, where's your starting point? If you think your belief, you think that you're a spiritual being, or do you feel that you're a good person, or you feel that you're a doctor, or you feel that you're a husband, or what? Where do you start? If you have an identity of who you are, where do you start? And that scares people because you have to get rid of the identity of who you are, right? Or you try to assume, pull something on top of that. If the identity, if who you are is a spiritual being, then you're bringing in all these things that is gonna reinforce that you're a spiritual being. Are you really reinventing yourself? Are you satisfying an identity that's already been built that you're not sure what it is? And so therefore, will you ever reach clarity so that you feel free? So the most important thing is, who are you? Okay. And, as far as knowing who we are, I'm going to go about how we form beliefs to back into seeing who we are. Because as we look at how we form beliefs, then we're going to realize, well, we're not the belief. Okay. So one belief that we all are so aware of and that we know that we've learned to believe is how to obey. All right. Everybody knows how to obey. Whether we choose to obey or not, doesn't matter. But we all have the belief of what that is to obey, and to a certain degree that obeying is a good thing to do. Probably the wise choice, some people even feel. All right, without thinking even. It doesn't matter if it's what's appropriate for the situation, just the idea of obeying alone for lots of people is a wise choice, even to their own detriment, right? So how do we get the belief to obey? We're not born believing we should obey. Little kids, if you look at them screaming, tantrum, all the floor, they did not come in this world thinking they should obey. In fact, they really resent the fact of you saying they should obey. Each kid to a lesser degree. I mean, to varying degrees, right? Resent this fact of obeying. So first, this child gets, they're around adult, teacher, whoever, who introduces the concept to them, which is just an idea of obey. It's like they hear that you need to obey, and it's an idea. You need to obey. So they go, what does that mean? So they go about doing whatever they're doing, and depending on how they are treated, how the reaction that occurs because of them not obeying, they start wondering, well, what that is. And then if they obey, when they do obey, and they get a star or a cookie, just like training a dog, you give them something, they go, oh, pleasurable obeying, not pleasurable disobeying. Okay. Well, and then they perceive, they understand, they can see what this idea of obey means. That's what that word is when they say that. Or that's what it means when I get that look. They already know what obey means. And so how that progresses on from there is then that child, depending on the child, is going to be motivated to obey, even have the intention to obey. If you have a child that's just really likes to please for whatever reason, they will go out of their way to, well, what would you like for me to do? How does that work? And depending on how good your rewards are, they're like, okay, that's it. I want to obey, right? And so naturally, then the motivation and intention is there to obey. And then from that, there's that, what happens after you have that intention is you take on the consciousness of it, okay? That child starts thinking like someone who obeys. And that's their thinking, their understanding of themselves as someone who obeys. And that's our relationship with life. We have an idea, we think about, we perceive it, then we have the birth of this idea, and then we start thinking like it. That's that whole thing. Look in the mirror, tell yourself. We want to start thinking like whatever this idea is. And so then after we move from the idea, we after we have the thinking of it, then what we do next is we experience it. And then from that point, after we experience it, we believe. We know how to obey. We believe, oh, I can obey. I experienced it. Everything worked out okay. This is the way it is. This is what happens. And so why this is so important is that the majority of beliefs we have have gone through that same process. Marketers know this whole system to a T. Politicians, preachers, they all know that you put an idea into someone, you've given them the right stimulation so that they can perceive it. You make them want it. And then they have that even if you start listening to the words in marketing, they take it to you. So then you're feeling it. And then they say, ride in the car, feel yourself in it, get the consciousness of it, have that experience of it, right? The preacher, you're going to hell, the brimstone, whatever whatever, they all take you through that same phase. And therein, the belief is born. Well, what happens when someone thinks they're that belief? Who is this? How can this person who thinks they're the belief be authentic or free? There's no way. So to figure out who you are, if we take that back a step and we go, okay, well, there's an idea. And so the idea is, I'm not good enough. I suck. Right? And so you look and you go, wait a minute, I'm looking at this idea that I'm not good enough, I suck, so I can't be the idea. So herein lies the heart of Mind Your Ideas that is so important. And it's not popular yet, but we're going to make it popular for people to realize then who they are that's seeing, wait a second, I'm not good enough, or even believing I'm not good enough. Whatever. What we're doing is we're using our attention. I'm pointing my head, not mind. We think we're using our mind, but it's not really mind. It's our attention. It's just our focus. Because mind is like what we call mind is the memory chart, char. And I mean, that's another word that's so loose that has lost meaning. So many people use mind in so many different ways. What does it really mean? So, but if you do attention, it's real clear. You're taking your attention. And then if you're thinking from the lines of attention, from your attention, you can create a relationship with life. That's something workable, right? And why this is so important right now is if you turn on the news or turn on anything else, what do they want the most? They want your attention. So the way to stay free through all of this is to really nourish, really claim, really protect your attention. Because no matter what situation occurs, you hear about people who went through the Nazi time and all the different situations where they were tortured, everything, they were people who mastered their attention. They did something with their attention that allowed them to survive, no matter the situation. And if you get good enough at it, where you really appreciate and you really claim that with your attention, you can create your beliefs, then thereby you can create your reality. The only trick with that is, since we're a part of a collective consciousness of everybody, all different types of realities, it's so easy to lose your attention and realize you're living somebody else's reality of what's happening, what's true, what you have to do. And the thing that whole Mother Teresa, where she said, I'm not going to fight against something, I will fight for something. If you're even resisting from the standpoint of this is not right, this isn't this isn't, where is your attention? So that's going to be so, so, so important. I've got extremely motivated for myself and even for others to start, for one, to start sharing this, and for one, to get rid of my sloppiness with my attention, because that's an extremely valuable commodity right now for both transition and for both those that want to prevent transition, to keep you back. So, okay, so then now that we got here is, well, how do you reinvent yourself? How do you form a belief? What are you going to do? Right? And therein begins the process. I mean, a large part of Mind Your Ideas is about that, where we have a journaling and meditation and everything else to perfect this, to get better and better at it. But I'm going to go through just the initial, what it actually is, because it's no secret, and it's something that has to be practiced, because we do have to deal with the beliefs we have that aren't. they're not in alignment with, that's anybody. When you want to change, your old belief's not going to be in alignment with your new belief. That's just a fact. It's like trying to draw a painting or do a painting and you're trying to do it on top of the last painting. What's going to happen? You're going to destroy both, the new painting and the old painting. You got to start with a fresh canvas. Okay. And we don't think about that. We bring all kinds of, we start drawing on, yeah. All right. And then therein lies the trap as far as going down the healing trap. Instead of getting a fresh canvas, we try to mess with this old canvas. Well, let me heal it. Let me find the inner child in there and pull it out. Let me sit with this one. And then we think, oh, we found the inner child. Hey, we can paint over it now. How's that going to work? All right. So it's like you could keep hearing the stuff over and over again until it really sinks in, and that's what's so annoying. It's so simple. It really is so simple, but the only thing that needs the changing is our thinking, because we identify with our beliefs so much. It's the only reason why it's hard. You want to start thinking about your beliefs as your tool belt, your little, or whatever what do carpenters call that little thing they carry around with their tools in it, that's what you want to start thinking of your beliefs as, and you can pull out the belief you need for whatever situation. And, and you can go and create, or how we're going to say how we create the beliefs. And this is a very efficient way to even heal, because if you have an idea, you have an intent, and you start working on it, all the stuff that wants to interfere with that is going to come up. And so, but you don't have to sit there and try and paint over it. You just go, oh, you're there? Okay, I don't need you. Bullshit. Move it off the way. See it. And we have different various tools and processes to just move through that, to just reclaim, because all it is reclaiming the attention again. I've spoken to people with manic depressive disorders, and it's the same thing. It's when your attention gets hijacked by something. That's what's happening with the manic, and when the person gets manic or depressive, their attention is hijacked. And so, back to your precious attention. It is so there to serve you. And the thing about it that's so cool is, as you appreciate your attention and you're not all these different identities, guess what you'll also get to appreciate more? Life. You're not going to be looking at life with all these beliefs clouding your vision of life itself. You'll be able to put your attention on a leaf. you'll be able to put your attention on things and appreciate them and experience them. That's how we were meant to live. That's our relationship with life, our attention. We tend to it. We step away and get ideas and say, okay, well, I'm going to sit over here in my little corner, my little playroom, and I'm going to formulate this idea. And then I get back into life to experience it. Because it's not happening out here by me, more by myself. Okay. So, how do you form a belief? Well, it's, I mean, I look at people who look at me when I say, well, a belief starts with an idea. Everything starts with an idea. And it's just like, I get dismissed. It's just like, oh, please, just, get away, please. That's just too simple. You're a simpleton. Forget it. Just, let me complicate this. I got to complicate this. And I'm like, well, it just starts with an idea. And that's how every belief starts, is an idea. We can try to complicate it as much as we want and think it's so fancy and it's so elaborate that we have to go through years of college to understand it, but it's an idea. And that was the thing too, when I started doing more scientific stuff, and I finally realized as I was trying to make, tones for things, and I'm getting into all this math and doing all this stuff, and I finally looked and I was like, this is a little bit of BS. I bet you I could prove anything. And that's what you do. You start with a hypothesis and you prove it. How objective and how scientific, that's our science. So you're going in blind to begin with. Now, what's all quantum theory and relativity? It's based on the observer. Oh, that's what we're going to experience, based on the observer. And what's the observer seeing? An idea. Whatever we see is a part of life. That's just some idea. To us, it's just an idea. It's an idea of life. It's a concept. It's an idea. It's a piece. It's a part. It's a leaf. It's an idea. So everything starts with an idea. And the thing that's also a little bit difficult is we've been trained to be lazy and stupid and let other people develop ideas for us. Tell us how to think. Tell us how to be. Please tell me how to be. So it requires some discipline, some desire, some, for one thing, just clearing out some garbage, not with going to heal and paint over and down the canvas, just getting rid of energy, because every idea is energy. So it's releasing some old energy, just, being cognizant of the energetic aspect of things and knowing when you're clear and when you're not. And the thing about it too, it's when you put your attention on anything, you allow the energy to circulate. What we do when we feel a bad feeling or feel anything, we don't want to feel it, so we withdraw our attention, and then there's a resistance, and then that energy cannot circulate. So it sits in you and gives you heartburn. It's not circular. Okay. And all it needs is your attention. Not your judgment, not your mind coming in and associating all of your beliefs of what that might mean. Just your attention to make a choice. Okay. So you choose an idea. You go, okay, this idea is good. I'm going to make it into an intent. I wonder what this idea means. Let me see if I can perceive this idea. That's the first thing you got to do. You have an idea. You got to say, can I perceive this idea? What does this idea mean? What would it look like? And once you can perceive it, then you start, it's funny how when you start perceiving something, you start getting that feeling of authenticity. Isn't that crazy? As you perceive something, you feel like, wow, you're starting to get a real feeling and you're just perceiving an idea. And it's when we shut that off for whatever reason that people start feeling like an imposter. They start feeling unfulfilled. They start feeling out of alignment. because they're not allowing the entertaining of some idea that they feel, right? So we have an idea and we perceive it. We just, we take our, there's various different ways that we do, mind you, ideas to enhance perceiving. You embrace that idea, you sense that idea, you got it, right? So as the more you can really feel that idea and perceive it, next thing you know is, whoa, I'm motivated. I gotta get out there and do something. This is something else. This is exciting. You might even sit down and start by writing an intention statement. And this is an important part because people, when they're creating, think that they can start with an intention. Well, then you're just talking yourself into something, and that's where the stress comes in. How many people's intentions is a product of them talking themselves into something? So when you talk yourself into something, you're bringing all the old beliefs that your mind has stored to try to convince you about this so-called intention that you have not even perceived, to the point where there's authenticity. Okay? So you have an intention. You're like, all right, got this, right? And then you take it to allow it to be a part of your consciousness. You start thinking like this idea, you're it. You're thinking like this idea. And because you're aware of being the attention, you can think as the idea and the attention simultaneously. So it's almost like, you can shift it off. You're not always focused on, keep my attention on this, but it's there in the back. And as you allow yourself to just move into the idea and become it, because that's the part of being conscious with life. That's the whole point of us having consciousness. We move into the idea, right? And as we move into the idea, then we experience it. And then after we experience it, we know it. We have a belief, okay? And if you're not going to just stay there and be sovereign, you're going to put that further and you're going to project it out to where you're a part of life with that. Real life, not made up life. All right? Because that whole idea in the spiritual world, as far as being sovereign, is actually stopping the process. Sovereign is for nations. It's for power outside. It's not for power within. You haven't finished the process. You haven't completed it. Because it's about you. It's about a belief. It's an identity. Sovereign is an identity. You created the self. Yes, that's great, but that's not the end. It's allowing yourself to meld into life and be a part of life with that. And so it's what would be more accurate is to say self-determined versus sovereign. Because that's more of an action, that's a verb, it's not an identity. All right. And so, let's see, did we cover? Yeah, okay. So we were talking as far as these are the steps to reinvent yourself. And so you can see that you would take that same step from the idea all the way through, possibly several times, as you're building this identity and you're creating an identity to experience. We're creative. That's, all of life is our creations, but not to be, but to experience. Not to identify. You identify in the moment for the experience, but that's it. And when you think about it, when you die, what are you going to take with you? Nothing but the experience. So the more you can move through your life and really understand and create and be one with your experiences, the more you have when you're knocking at the door or whatever, okay, I'm here alive. Hey, it was a good life. I got my bag. I got my experiences. It was good. I've grown. Okay. So the process of reinventing yourself, I hope you can see, is not difficult. It's actually the way we should be living. It's actually how to experience life. And it is so crucial right now, because what's going to happen for people who are not aware of who they are used to identifying themselves as certain beliefs. What happens when their beliefs crumble? What are they going to hold on? I mean, it's going to be ugly. When you're totally identified by all of these things out in the world and they are not there, what is that person going to do? So those of us, everybody listening to this tape or whoever is getting this knowledge has a certain responsibility there's nothing you can do. As you can see through the biggest thing I think we're all learning now is how strong people's beliefs are and can be. You can't go out there and say, hey, wait a minute, think about that. What's that? There's not many people that are going to live. I mean, you can tell, you can even look at somebody and know whether it's even worth your breath. Because they're wearing their beliefs on them now. People are wearing their beliefs. You can look at them and know what they believe. They truly are becoming their belief is their identity. I never even thought about that, but that's essentially what's happening right now. People's beliefs are their identity, that you can actually look at them and see that. It's funny, when people didn't have masks on, they were hiding with masks, but you couldn't see it. Now they're wearing the mask and you can see it. It's like, that's how things are going to be backwards. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, you could see how their walk stance now and how they have everything, the body language. Yes.
Yeah. And before you couldn't, they didn't have a mask on, but they were wearing the mask from inside and you couldn't see.
Yeah.
I just thought about that. I thought that's pretty wild. So anyway, anybody have any questions? Any tidbits that you got from tonight that's a little bit different than before, or?
Basically, our beliefs are our reality. It's everything. That's how you sum it around.
Yeah.
So to change your reality, if you're, hey Violet, how did you know? Hold on.
She's like, please, Arthur, change your beliefs. Feed me more. No, okay.
So if our reality wasn't, like, if our beliefs wasn't serving our reality, we could just maybe make a small alteration to our beliefs to experiment with our reality, no? With that.
Well, alteration, yeah. I mean, I think replace, it's, I don't know if you can alter a belief, because I think that's the whole aspect of the healing thing that fails. And it's an interesting fellow by, he's a little bit out there, is creating these systems. But one of the things he found, and a lot of healing people are just finding this out, is he was going, why is every time after he goes through and he deals with charges, memory is a negative charge, a positive charge. And after he deals with all these memories as negative charges and he goes and he thinks he clears it and he feels great, why do they always keep coming back? And so what he realized is, as he's doing that, almost like a family tree, he's actually making the charge larger. He thought he was getting rid of it, but by putting attention on it, you're actually making it larger. So I don't know if you can alter a belief. It still has its structure of what it is.
Gotcha.
So,
right.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's right. Otherwise, it'd be like washing your brain, right? Just changing. Yeah.
Well, but it's not.
Go ahead.
If you think of it as information, how can you change information? There's data bits, and that's what it is. You can rearrange it, but you can't change it.
What if you were to lie to yourself?
I don't quite get that. I mean, we do it all the time.
Right. Like I could probably demonstrate an example in a few sentences. I had a gentleman that did me wrong, and he was responsible for some theft of some money in my property. And then later, when I brought it up to him, he accused me of accusing him of doing that. And I was like, no, 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 it was the person that you brought with you. And somehow he couldn't get over it over the course of a weekend. And somehow he just kept telling people that I eventually found the money. So he just lied to get over the guilt. And then he stopped talking to me.
Yeah, and once again, if all you can look at all of that is just creativity, it's just creating scenarios. It's just creating. That's who we are. We're creative beings.
So he just changed the script for himself.
Yeah, he just created something else. He put together different bits of information to create a different memory and say, this is the truth. What else are we doing?
It's not lying. It's just,
well, he may be actually even lying. It doesn't matter. It's just putting information together and saying, this is what happened and this is what I'm going to stand by. That's the thing too. As we move further and further, I think there's going to be more awareness and understanding. I don't know if I can comprehend or even deal with all the shifts that are going to happen, because shifting into virtual reality, that's on the horizon. Somebody feels that the UFOs information is going to be released, and there's going to be actually fake UFO invasions. And, there's going to be mass, really crazy chaos stuff. So you really have to get to understanding of life itself, because life, the thing about it is all of this craziness can only happen separate from life. Life itself does not have separation. It makes sense, all, the things that are so-called bad, and it's just an absence of goodness. It's life, its nature is good. So there's going to be all sorts of things. And that's, once again, appreciating that who you are, how you perceive the world is totally just based on your attention. Could be a lifeline, godsend, as we move forward. Because you can always shift your attention. You can always take back your attention. And if you're really once again, what can you believe? Can you believe you're in another dimension and this doesn't even affect you? Something I shared with Nancy was, I read it years and years and years ago, but when you read something, I can't even tell you where I read it. It just always stuck with me. There was a mystic in Germany during the whole Nazi invasion, and he had people in his house that he was protecting. And when the soldiers came, he opened the door and he said, "There's nothing here for you." And he was so clear and so in his presence, the soldiers just walked away and left. And there are people who even say now, I'm not going to know until I have the experience of it. I can only repeat it, that you can say you have to consent for something to happen to you. For something to be a part of your reality, there has to be your consent. And consent can come in the form of not saying no. That's consenting, not choosing otherwise. No, that's not for me. Thank you very much. I'm going this way.
Could it be that one time where, because I used to get like panic attacks out of nowhere. I could never figure it out until I stopped deciding of what it is when it was happening. I just kind of giggled at it. And then
you did not give it your attention. That's a perfect example. Rather than feeling, oh my God, my heart is racing. Oh my God, there's energy. Oh my God, what do I do? Oh my God. And you feed it your attention. You just laughed and said bullshit.
Right. And it went away.
Yeah. And it went away. That's a perfect example.
I even had a friend next to me. I was like, here, take your hand, hold my heart. My heart's like, do. They're like, holy shit, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It'll go away. I used to react.
Yeah. And eventually, I'm sure you don't get them as often or at all, probably, hopefully.
No, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
no.
And what was it? You did not give it your attention. Oh, what a perfect example. Thanks.
It's because I used to kind of pick apart, like, oh, okay, what situation's causing it?
Yeah,
Okay, if I just
right.
avoid that
Right.
situation, if I avoid that
Right.
thought, if I just stop doing, I'm trying to figure out all these like ways to
Right.
wiggle my way around it.
And here you're painting over that dirty canvas instead of taking a new canvas going,
Right. That's right. That's the dirty canvas. Yeah, it was too noisy. It was just
yeah.
I had so much movement. Like I can't go here because there's too much color here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm
Right.
trying to paint a new picture, and
Mm-hmm.
like, man, okay.
Right.
So I was just like, swipe, new line.
Yeah. Right. Get that. Right.
Wow, that's awesome. That's cool. I just put
Now
some things
that's a perfect
together.
example in a situation where you could have really gotten into fear of how easy it is to turn it around. Thank you. My watching this will may really appreciate you for that example, because how many people have suffer from that? Tons.
Yeah,
And that's because we're not taught about our attention.
right. It's because we're like we're victims of the labels. Like, oh, you get labeled something, and then your actions match it or something, and then you're like, oh, no, I guess that's it. I'm just stuck with that. And that's what that is. Or and
And you
then
feed it that whole thing of, well,
right,
that talk therapy. Let's talk about that. Even trauma. You're taking somebody back through that trauma again to relive it. And then that's making it bigger and, create, it's actually expanding the negative charge rather than just being with it as far as to allow the energy to move, not to expand the story, and to have your attention on something else or anyway. So great. Well, I thank you all for coming, and I encourage you to pay attention and stay appraised of what's coming out of mindyourideas.com, because we're ready to roll. It was the first few months was just putting this together, but, and part of it too was just seeing, the tools that work together, and we've been getting incredible results, and, it's just been working fantastically, and it's so simple. Yeah, it takes practice, but it's so simple. Once you put the right things together and retrain yourself on who you are, and take that responsibility for choosing. And I mean, right now, you want to choose. I'm sorry.
now choosing means owning, right? Owning everything.
No, it means
No.
choosing and seeing and see if you can perceive it. And it's going to go on its own. That owning thing is, once again, what's that? A belief. Choosing means owning it. When you find yourself going, it means this or it means that, then you're operating from a belief.
Okay.
Don't say
Okay.
what it means. See what it means. Use your
See what it
attention.
means. See what it means. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This
Okay.
was awesome. Can't
Thank
wait till
you.
next time.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Can't wait till next time.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate you. And this was great. And the recording will be in Mind Your Ideas if when you want to look at it again. And, I'm going to keep doing this because, as I said, I think this is very important.
I'll have to rewatch this one and take notes and stuff. There's lots of good stuff in there. I just wanted to be in it instead of staring at my notebook trying to keep up and stuff, because I'll miss something. I'll miss it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So yeah, please share too. And as I said, I think my challenge is it's just too simple and it's new and it's like, but it's really so important because, although, I mean, even a lot of spiritual people are going to start sinking eventually as this goes on and on and on. You know, because there are some who believe that, you know, we're still going to be in lockdown next year. Oh, it was just before I came on here. I saw, I don't know what she was. It was Canadian. I don't know if she was a health minister or what, but she's saying, looks like we'll be in lockdown in Canada for 2 to 3 years. Wearing masks and social distancing. Yeah. I don't think it was, I'm not sure if it was lockdown, but yeah, the social distancing. And I think I might have even saw lockdown to some degree for 2 or 3 years.
Yes, there is a pushing movement of people to going out on land. There's
Mm-hmm.
actually in New York City, people that lived in Manhattan, because of the fear of another lockdown, they're all buying up property like an hour up north.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where the property is going hot. That's where it's
Oh,
exploding.
yeah. Yeah.
Real estate.
But even still, that's not, you know, I mean, once again, it's like you're going to have to learn to create your own reality, trying to do it from the outside. Eventually, that's going to just start backfiring, you know, because it's the control right now is on the outside. It's still trying to be there. So from the inside, there has to be the creation of, okay, what is my life? Start reinventing now, get a early head start for when that finally falls down. You go, hey, you're ready. You've got your life reinvented instead of just trying to run and deal with, you know, reacting to. Yeah, definitely be someplace safe. But I'm just saying, the, you know, I mean, because a lot of people are trying to go back to the old of the homesteading and the things that were part of the 60s or whatever. And yeah, for some people that might be the experience, but understand it's all just an experience. There's no way to do it. What do you want to experience? Create for you.
There's a third way.
But
Can I share? Operation Mobilize. We don't live anywhere.
right.
We're mobile.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. Totally.
So
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, and that's the you. It can be anything where there isn't that sense of I have to have a home or this or. And I feel it's going to be progressive. Whatever you know there is. It's not something we did before to try to be safe because this weird thing happened and you know oh I got to run back over here now. You know, somebody made a comment today in our coaching group saying, how come things always revert back to the 50s? You know, people try to go back to the 50s. Well, that was before the age of Aquarius. It was the end. I'm thinking about this now, the end of Pisces. So they're going back there. Okay, we'll be safe. We'll be able to control and know how things are. Because in the 50s, everything was going to control everybody, you know? There wasn't this upheaval, I mean. So, but if you embrace being a creative being, you can make this whatever you want. Whatever feels right for you, what's coming through you, because we're all going to be urged to do something, to be, you know, because we can't not be. We're creative. All right.
right.
Thank
Cool.
you.
See you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. All right.
All right.